I was gonna say good morning. Oh, it's still morning. 5 to afternoon, actually. I'm gonna cue you, so please stay on this slide. I'll let you know when to move on to the next one. Like Upam was saying, my name is Kholeka Shange. And let me just start off by thanking the head of Market Photo Workshop, Ubandile Gumbi, who reached out to me regarding participating in this auspicious event. Let me also thank Upamla and the rest of the organizing team for dreaming up this beautiful project, which recognizes the critical role that abatwebuli, who are black women who play, who play a critical role in the making of South Africa's visual culture. Siyabonga ngomsebenzi wenu, sibonge kumholi, sibonge kumutawo. As you can see in the first slide, I have titled this presentation, Ma'Cynthia Mavuso, itinerant journey woman photographer. So this is not only an ode to Umama Mavuso, but it's also a nod to the work of the late Usando Mfugeng, who writes about an itinerant journeyman photographer whose photographic practice catapulted him into the world of image making at the insistence of his mom. And in his work, A Trajectory of a Street Photographer, Mfugeng highlights how his mom understood that the camera is not only umshini wokuthwebula, but it's also a tool through which one could memorialize their life history. And I mobilized the expression umshini wokuthwebula with intention, because speakers of Nguni languages have long recognized the power of visual technology such as the camera. So they refer to a photographer as umthwebuli with the understanding that the camera is not a neutral object that one uses and one that innocently points and shoots. Rather, they invoke the notion of ukthwebula specifically because it speaks to the power dynamics that exist between the so-called photographic subject, who is in front of the lens, and the photographer, umthwebuli, which is the person that is behind the lens. So this is to say that speakers of Nguni languages have long understood the power of the camera, which again, like I said, they refer to as umshini wokuthwebula. So they suggest that if one is not careful, photography or uthwebula is akin to takata, right? Wherein one takes the power of another, tatamandla omunye. Therefore, it's important to think about how visual African concepts such as uthwebula can help us to think about transformative ways in which we can approach the process of image making. So as umthwebuli, so I'm speaking to the photographers here, do you go into the field knowing the power behind the shutter and the lens? Do you go in understanding the politics of representation? In addition, what is useful about the concept of ukthwebula is that the power does not only lie with umthwebuli, as the people in front of the lens can push back through what the feminist scholar Bell Hooks refers to as gestures of resistance. So in this presentation, I propose ukuthi Ma'Cynthia Mavuso's practice of ukthwebula is one that is transformative as it keeps in mind generations to come. Mavuso is not only umthwebuli who is preoccupied with making her own body of work, but she passes down what Hooks refers to as an aesthetic inheritance to many, including abatwebuli such as Sabelo Mlangeni. This is to say that it is under the tutelage of Ma'Cynthia Mavuso that photographers such as Mlangeni are born. And this is important to note because in South African visual culture, it is often white men who are touted as the teachers of visual literacy. And so, what of Mavuso, an itinerant journeywoman photographer who is also utisha beyond the classroom, iqhawe, as per Thandiswa Mazwai's invocation of the term qawe. And so we're going to go to the second slide. So as you can see there, it says nizalwa ngubani. And so just before you click there, I'd like to now play a snippet for you from the vocalist Thandiswa Mazwai's anthem called Nizalwa ngubani, which was released 19 years ago. Can you believe it? So that was 2006 as part of her Zabalaza album. So although the Nguni expression nizalwa ngubani is not easily translatable to English, the core idea is the question around where one comes from. Or should I say, which people one comes from. And so to say the phrase solely means who gave birth to you all is to insist on biological determinism, which Umazwai subverts, right? And so as you listen to the song, I want you to keep Mavuso in mind as one of the many Black women that this country is yet to celebrate for their contribution to this country's photographic heritage. If you could please just play as part of the Tiny Desk Global Fest series in Washington, D.C. So for those of you who've heard the longer version of the song, you will know that Umazwai conceives of ubzali, parenthood, beyond the biological. As she asks us, have you forgotten where you come from? She's posing a question that suggests that one's forebears transcends the idea of genetic relatedness. In this regard, I propose that Cynthia Mavuso may be framed as our predecessor in the South African photographic landscape. In line with Umazwai's song, it's important to partake in the project of ukungalibali, or what the filmmaker and academic Kubhekisizwe Peterson refers to as the battle against forgetting, as a way to remember and memorialize the work of Black women photographers such as Mavuso. This is not to say that the work of ukungalibali Mavuso in the public imagination does not exist. In fact, in 2021, and I'd like us to go to the next slide now. So in 2021, the Market Photo Workshop, in collaboration with the Mail and Guardian, pioneered the Black Photo Library's research collection, which aimed to remember, and I quote them directly here, they aim to remember the country's collective past through iconic images by dedicated photographers. Through this project, there was a recognition that the struggle for compensation, copyright redress, and the visibility of Black women's historic role in photography continues. And so, 4 years after the establishment of this partnership, we see the very same concerns being raised through this conference. As you can see in this slide, and as noted earlier, Mavuso's photographic archive attests to her role as an itinerant journeywoman photographer who traveled around Driefontein, making photographs of the young and old. In this slide, you see 3 images which she made in the late 80s and early 90s. And these speak to the quotidian nature of Black life amid the political unrest of the time. The ordinariness and the everydayness of these photographs is an antithesis to the dominant images of the late 80s and the early 90s South Africa, where abatwebuli were expected to document political rallies and political unrest. Mavuso's choice to document the everyday is unsurprising, considering how Mfokeng himself was reluctant only to photograph what Njabulo Ndebele refers to as the spectacular. Mofokeng states that he was, and I quote him directly here, he was less interested in the unrest than in the ordinary life in townships. As some of us are aware, his work centered around what he called the quotidian African life of shebeens, street soccer, and home life, which had been considered unpunishable in the 1980s. And so, as you can see in the upcoming slides, so if you can go to the next one. So, yeah, you can stay here. Mavuso's work also represents everyday scenes of Black life, ekasi, be it in schools, where she documented learners, as well as her colleagues in the teaching world. So for those of you who don't know, Mavuso was also a teacher. Okay, she photographed life inside and outside the classroom. And we can see in this slide, so if you can go to the next one, yeah. So you can see in this slide that